Yo, what's up guys? Looking at the Temple of Chaos for Wind, which is arguably the easiest rotation. I have this pre-recorded of my best run and one run that could have been better, but it failed in the end. So I will be kind of yapping over that and then showcasing what I did, what I recommend to do, what I would change. In the current version, I don't have that much time. I'll be flying out to Shanghai tomorrow for another Etheria event. I'll be back on the 10th, which is pretty much when this event is already ending. Or at least, well, yeah, that kind of that. So still not really chill that you only have 1 week to do it if the week doesn't really fit. Like, I still, things that I said to Kanto is like, yo, can we just not make it the whole month and give me the same amount of entries and then let me do it when I want to do it rather than when you tell me to do it? Let me know in the comments if you agree on that one. Plus, we would also like to see a few extra things, such as like split rune blocks and blah, blah, blah. But let me know what you would like to see different on this content. Either way, let's just yap about what I did for this team. You do see the teams over here on the left. And I will talk about the replacement for some of the LD units out there as well. You can kind of see the run in the background, and we'll talk about that in a second. Wait, this one is actually wrong for the numbers. This one was like around this, and this one was around this. So might you ask, say, what are the numbers? Well, the numbers are the speed that they have. This one was also this, and this one was that. Might you ask, what are the numbers in front of it plus the Fs? The Fs mean just triple fights. And the numbers mean in which order did I actually swap/rune them. So what is the best rune quality towards like the next unit for best rune quality? Might you say is like, shouldn't you rune your team 2 before runing your team 1? Yes, but I actually, in this case, I runed up my team 1 first. Well, actually, my original idea was having my team 1 as team 2. And so I had the Lucas team in team 2, which I ended up finding that the Lucas team was a lot weaker, and the Hua He team with Hua was a lot stronger. Hua is definitely a unit you really want to be using for this, and we will see that in the next team. Hua's doing an insane amount of damage. However, it's pretty simple. You have your normal booster into a death breaker, into a damage dealer, into a death breaker, into a damage dealer. Same thing over here. You have your attack buffer into a death breaker, into damage dealer, into death breaker, into damage dealer. Simple as that. Replacements. People might ask, Martina. Martina, if you don't have Martina, just simply go for any boomerang warrior. That is not Sabrina. I would probably recommend to go for Maruna, the fire one, which probably adds the most amount of damage out there. This one is, of course, the Miriam, if you don't have that. I do like to go for Deborah in this one, or at least I noticed going for Deborah in this one is a little bit easier if you want to go for your safe route. Then still just go for a Miriam plus Wind Miriam. I always forget the name. I think it's Salins or something like that, but I could be wrong on that. If you want to go safe route for that, and then you also remove this one. Simple as that. So that's why you remove those. If you do this team, then you will definitely get G3. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you have the Daragon team, you will get G3. It's as simple as that. If you don't have a Daragon team, you probably want to go back to the Katarina team. I made videos on the Katarina team before with, like, the wind rotation and that kind of stuff. If you don't have that, this or Kata team. Like, that is pretty much the thing. There's not too many other options out there. So, talking about Team 1 and Team 2, because that's where the most variation comes from. Or, wait, first, why do I like Deborah on this one? It is the right element for Daragon, therefore you have lower crit, but therefore also the boss deals less damage on you because he could miss crit. It makes it a little bit more forgiving, where Deborah becomes a little bit better in that. And plus, Deborah has a higher ceiling of doing the max amount of damage. So this is the run where we see also the Hua Shine. Hua is super strong because if she's hitting wind, she will always double hit, which is an insane amount of damage out there. She's just dropping double 90Ks on not even a priority set. So she's actually the 4th in priority runed, and she's dropping double 90Ks on like casual hits, like right there, which is really strong. You could also go for an option where you put Hua and Lucas together, and then you need a different lead, which is going to be this one needs the, let's say, lead Gojo. So we have that. People might also ask, how about the Water Frodo? Is he good for an attack buffer? Well, if you use the Water Frodo, he's the replacement for Seek. So for Seek, replace, let's just call it like that. And what you would like to do with Frodo is you want to put him at 0 speed, where he takes half turns. What does mean half turns? Well, let's say you want your Frodo to move after all of your units. And I think it is best done probably in the team 1, but I'm not 100% sure about that because, yeah, no, in the team 1 makes sense because then you can get your levels in earlier on. And the half turns will make it where he will give attack buff for 2 turns, so he only needs to take 1 turn every 2 turns for anything else. And if you do that in your team 2, you probably start not killing right away, whereas if you do this for team 1, it is probably fine because the other units just kill without an attack buff early on as well. So that's kind of what I think is best, but I did not really test this, didn't really test. That is kind of a thing. If you just want a simple G3, I would recommend to go for these kind of teams over here. I would recommend probably to use exactly these kind of 3 teams and then this with the safe route. And then you only switch the runing order towards, it should be then that you go for your Hua 3rd, this one 4th, and then you go for this one as 5 and this one as 6. No, that's not how numbers work. This one's 4, this one's 5. That is what I would recommend to go for runing order. I could also make the argument that you want to maybe be switching Hua-He and Seek in turn order. But that is a little bit more nitpicking if you... Well, actually, for the safe route, I would say Hua-He in team 2. If you want to go for your highest damage potential, you maybe want to be putting Seek in here. And why is Seek in team 2? Well, Hua-He in team 1 can actually solo a whole wave. And Seek cannot actually do that. So that's the difference in there. So this is the damage output that you do see. It does happen, especially in team 2, where you have like the on rotation, off rotation, which pretty much means on rotation is where your armor breaker moves first and then your damage dealer. But the off rotation, it definitely does happen and switches back and forth a little bit. Where at some point you just get, you start off with a damage dealer, then a death breaker, and then another damage dealer, and that is how you clear those waves. Especially towards the end, if you're ending up with like level 34, 35-ish, that is the point where you get a lot more difficulties of actually clearing the waves itself. But that's also like Hua-He in the end for that skill 3. If she lands a death break early, it's just so much stronger. And this Hua thing was doing a really, really good amount of damage. So if you were to say it's like this vs Gojo, Hua would definitely beat that. If it is about wind. I did not actually test the Momo versus Gojo, but I think Momo wins that. But I did not actually test that, so I'm not 100% sure. But I do think that Momo does do more damage in that in the first place. So then we go for the boss. Also, a thing that you always want to keep in mind, if... That's actually something I did not do in this one. I started off the boss, so we can go for 1 back and then showing. I started off at level 36, which is definitely not bad. But if you start off with 1 bar... then it's best to actually make the Myrne also move in front of the Daragon. In my final run, I actually did do this. Reason for that is that we normally don't do it, is because if you have 2 bars, then you want to go S3, S2, and then you go for a kill. But if you have 3 bars left over, then you kind of want to go S3, S3, and then your S2. Because then you don't have to worry about her S3 at a later moment, and you can right away start adding the extra damage that she does do. So that is just a little bit of nitpicking for... if you really want to make the best way out of it, and that's just about like how did you end up your previous turn into the next turn. And then it's all about like, okay, can we land as many death breaks as possible? But this is also the point. I was doing 85Ks right now. I would have been doing like 109Ks the moment I was having the skill from her already up. So I would have had a little bit of a better rotation if I actually did switch that out there. So there's definitely a few things that could be improved in this run, a few things that could be slightly different in this run altogether as well. And yeah, this is just the kind of the thing, like people do say, it's like, oh, can we not just like save the runes and use it for all? Well, every time it's slightly different. Like in this case, we have a little bit less crit rate on the Daragon. We use slightly bit different units because of the different elements. So it would be nice if you can save the bolts and then kind of switch things around. But in the end, if you want to go for the highest run, you still have to rerune every time, which is a little bit annoying to do. It would be nice if at least the reruning did not cost any mana, so people could actually go for like a more chill way of doing this content. I think a lot of people are kind of maybe on the point. Let me know in the comments as well if you're just doing this content just for G3, or you're just doing this on auto for just like a bunch of rewards, or not at all. Like I'm kind of curious to hear about you guys, how you are thinking about clearing this content right now, because this is like the 4th rotation, I guess, we have right so far. So it's been a while that we have this content, and in the end, it's all about like how much death breaks do you get. Also, if the balance patch happens, and I do think, or well, I don't think, but it's more that I can kind of expect the Daragon to get a nerf where he doesn't get like 1,000 attack bar, but he only maxes out at like 200 or 150 attack bar per attack bar gain kind of thing that he can do on max. If that is the case, then he is still usable, but he's not crazy OP, because right now it's like Temple of Chaos outside of water. If you don't have the Daragon, you're just kind of screwed. Like, that's the honest answer right there. But this rotation, all in all, went pretty solid. I would definitely say I did like a 13 point something mil. I did do a 14.4 mil in a previous rotation. I do expect people to get about 15 to 16 mil, maybe even 16 to 17 mil on this one altogether. Because of just having the right element, you have a little bit more options out there. You can toy around with Hua. There's definitely some other options you could work with. It is hard to get Hua also on a permanent speed buff. That would be really nice, but yeah, those things just simply don't really happen. But we're looking at 11.8 mil with 12 turns left. If I land early death breaks on this altogether every time right now, I would have probably been looking at like 14 to 15 mil already. And I would say this run was not even remotely close to great. Plus, the runing order that I did was kind of bad as well. So, for that reason, at least we did not die over there, so we do get another hit in. But the death break there came in pretty late. So that's kind of an issue right there. Then I think from here, it's also death break resisted on that first hit, which is not good. We do still recover by getting extra turns in, but otherwise, we would have had one extra turn. And then from here, this is a 13.3 mil, and I think we missed the death break. Yeah, no death break activation whatsoever on that one, which messes up another turn, which we could have done easily. Yep, then we mess up the 2 turns with that. So towards the end, I could have easily ended up with like 16 mil on this if it went a little bit better from that side right there. So this is the next run. This was my last turn on wave 2, or like team 2. And I did start off with I had the final turn with Momo using a death break, which was really nice. And we have 1 turn left, which does mean I start off the next boss with 3 bars left to be using. So for that reason, I actually made my Mirene 1 speed faster to also therefore outspeed my Daragon. So in this case, we have everything 147, and we do already have the highest rank right there. And in this case, I have 0 bars on it because I used it in the last bar. So we can go for an S3, and then we right away have your turn, and we can start hitting from there, and we can even use that final hit to just clean up right there. You almost always want to start off with a death break, and you always want to start off the Daragon with an S2, because the S2 has way more recovery in there than an S1, because it has actually built-in recovery rather than, well, not. That's just the simple fact to it. So that's kind of what you want to keep in mind. And then right away, you can also start hitting the high hits. So this run went actually pretty good until pretty much the end, so let's skip forward to that. So over here we have 17 turns left with 10 mil on the board already. This is definitely an angle that if he takes all of the turns with good death breaks right now, we would have been looking at like 16 mil-ish, but he missed both death breaks over there. It's not the worst, it's not the end of the run just yet, but we would have to land... No, wait, it is kind of the end of the run, because, well, in this case, if he missed crit, I could have still gotten it, but the 2 units cut in the middle, I don't have a death break, I don't have anything to work with just yet. He takes a turn. If he does kill right now, then we're dead. If he glanced right there, I would have been able to survive. I would have probably been able to get a good run out of this. But yeah, that's just kind of the issue, that if the other units move pretty fast after, then it's just dead for that. It doesn't really work. Also, if I were to have the Miriam in here, I would have probably still cut the turn and it would have been fine. So, and Yuldong, of course, would have done a lot better. So that's where I went for the high risk. Because I was already sitting at a 13 mil, I was just like, yo, I'm gonna go high risk. If I had the Miriam, as mentioned, I probably, let's see how much attack bar I would have gained on that skill right there. Maybe I would have cut this. I would not have cut that, but I maybe would have cut this over here. So that's one of those things that you don't know, but then again, that's also why the Miriam is the safer route. And then Wind Miriam makes it a lot better, because then all of your units can land their death breaks a lot easier. So if you just want a G3, definitely go for Miriam plus Wind Miriam, and don't go for Mirene, and don't go for Deborah. That's just the easy way out there. But let's look at all of the runes. So currently I am rank 1. I definitely don't expect this to hold a top 10 position. People will 100% overtake me. Going through all the runes, in this case, Lucas only needed 40 crit rate, which is a little bit of an awkward build. I actually forgot to rune Seek. I did have Seek build, but I completely forgot to rune him. He just happened to be at the right speed, exactly as the re-rune build, and therefore I was like, oh, I don't need to re-rune it. But I actually did forget to re-rune it. I'm like looking at the runes, I'm like, why did I not re-rune it? Because he was at the right speed at some point. I did this shit at 2 AM. Maybe it's not the best of times as well. For the Jean, it's also that we just needed, 40 crit rate because of the crit buff, and then also what he gets himself. No, actually, I needed less crit on that. I even needed 25 crit on the Jean. That also makes Jean next to a Seek a little bit awkward, to be honest, because that's the point where he already needs 70. Because of 70 and the right element, he only needs 55. And then because of Seek, he only needs 25. Yeah, the odds of you having a full-on crit damage build that doesn't have any crit rate at all is a little bit awkward. So, but in the end, Sean does have like the highest damage. I think from like the single target damage units, Hua has the highest stable output. Lucas has the highest conditional output. I think it's best Hua, then Sean, then Momo, then... Yes, yeah, I would say so. Probably for the highest damage output, I would maybe even say that it would be a good replacement to put this over there and then Momo over there. I think that would be a good replacement because Sean definitely does do more damage than Momo. Plus, it is better for where do you need your speeds and those kind of things. In the end, you still have Huagi over here, so the amount of crit that you need on this is pretty low. But it is, I think that this would be a better team. Like if I were to redo it, I would probably redo it like this. So then just checking through a few of my previous runs and how much I did in previous runs and kind of things. Definitely noticed that my team one in previous runs was doing a little bit better, but it was also not really like crazy optimized kind of style, I would say. Like here I was doing like a 1.7. Too bad it doesn't show like which level you were at, because sure, 1.7 is nice, but 1.7 at a 25 stage or 1.7 at a level 23 stage is definitely a world of difference. My Daragon was on an okay set, but in the end, all of these rune scores were just like like 170s. It's just pretty efficient for like the crit rate, crit damage, and the attack. So not too bad of a set. This rune is pretty new, which is really helping me out. And yeah, that's pretty much all for the fire one right now. And I'm not sure if I will be actually doing a follow-up video on this. I don't think so. I'm also not sure if I will be doing more tries on this, because next weekend, which are the final days, I will be at the event for the EWS, as mentioned before. So for that reason, I think I'll just sit on the 30 mil, and that will definitely give me a G3. Maybe a top 10, but no, I highly doubt that this will hold a top 10, because in the end, this is so much easier than it is on the other ones because of like the Daragon being the right element and those kind of things. So we'll see what happens. Well, guys, thanks a lot for watching for this one. I see you as always in the next one. As mentioned, I will be gone for about 7 days. I won't be doing any streams, but I did prepare a lot of videos. So do subscribe to the channel to not miss out on any of those videos talking about collab units, tier list on the new collab units, and any kind of good stuff on like testing some light Legolas, testing some dark Aragon, testing some other units right there. So guys, see you in a future video and see you later. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.